Hello everyone, welcome back to Electrified Outdoors. Today we're going to talk about my Rivian R1T ownership experience, why I chose to trade the vehicle in. So as most of you may know by now, I traded in my Rivian R1T and picked up a 2024 Silverado EV RST First Edition. In today's video, I'm going to go over why I sold my Rivian R1T, what issues I had with the vehicle during the time that I owned it, what I liked about it, and if I would buy another Rivian product in the future. But before we get started, if you're new here, my name's Ken and I make videos about living with electric vehicles. I try to create a relaxing atmosphere for my viewers as well. So if you like what you see or if that interests you, go ahead and click on subscribe down below the video and click on the notification bell so you get notified anytime we add new content. And if you hit that like button, it'll help us grow our YouTube channel and it'll help others find our content just a little bit easier on YouTube. So I sat down and I came up with what I'm calling my R1T exit interview. I want to start out by saying that I love Rivian as a company. My wife and I still have this Rivian R1S, and we still have an R2 reservation, which I'm really looking forward to taking delivery of when Rivian starts producing the R2 vehicles. And we think Rivian has a really bright future ahead of it. But more or less, this video is going to be discussing why we made the decisions we made on the R1T. And I'm also going to talk about ways I think Rivian can improve. Okay, everyone, so I want to share an exciting opportunity today for those of you looking to get your first EV or those of you looking to upgrade your current EV. So Climate Exchange is back with their 9th annual EV raffle, where the grand prize winner can choose their dream EV from nearly 60 different vehicles on the market with a value of up to $120,000. Plus, what's better than this, they pay all of the taxes for you as well. So Climate Exchange is a nonprofit working extremely hard to fight climate change. And by purchasing a raffle ticket, not only do you have a chance to win an EV of your dreams, but you also are helping them in their mission. So in addition to the grand prize, they're offering a second place cash prize of $12,500 and a third place cash prize of $7,500. Every ticket you buy before the end of the year also enters you into a bonus early bird drawing of $10,000 that's going to happen on January 3rd of 2025. So that's 2 drawings for the price of 1 ticket and 4 total chances of winning. You can enter today by going to carbonraffle.org/electrified. I'll put the link down below in the video description. And after you do that, you can start daydreaming about your dream EV. And I want to thank carbonraffle.org for sponsoring this video. So the first thing I want to go over is the problems I had with my R1T during the course of my ownership. Now, I took delivery in very early May, like the 2nd of May, 2023, and it was used, so it had 200 miles on it. I know that doesn't seem like it's used, but technically it was. And I did have some issues. I really didn't have a ton of issues, but some of the issues that I did have kind of soured the ownership experience a little bit, and I'll explain why. So the first issue that I had with my R1T, on and off, I would say, during the whole time that I owned it, was alignment. It always felt like the vehicle was kind of out of alignment. Like I had to hold the steering wheel off to the left to keep the vehicle going straight down the road. And the steering just felt a little vague to me. That's totally different than the R1S. The R1S steering, even though they were on the same wheel and tire setup, the R1S steering seemed much more responsive and much more predictable than the R1T. So, not sure what was going on. Rivian did try to align it 3 different times. It did improve somewhat from when I first took delivery of it, but it still wasn't aligned properly, in my opinion. Again, I really don't have any data to back that up other than the way it felt to me. Was it a huge issue? No. Was it a safety issue? No, by any means it wasn't. And it wasn't the reason why I decided to trade the vehicle in. It's just something I wanted to note, that alignment was an issue throughout my ownership. The second thing that I had was an HVAC vibration. Now, Rivian ultimately did fix that on my last service. They had to replace the refrigerant line that was bumping up against the plastic cowling under the hood. They replaced that, and then they replaced some bracket on the passenger side wheel well under the hood there. This was part of a field service action that Rivian had for this particular issue. And it did seem to make a big difference. I had a piece of loose trim. Rivian fixed that. It never occurred again after that. The thing that concerned me a little bit, and was probably one of the things that pushed me to trade the Rivian, was the front dampers. I started to develop a clunk in the front end, so the driver's side front. And I took it into Rivian, and they couldn't duplicate it. That was the first time I took it in, and it really wasn't that bad at that point. So I just decided not to pursue it, because as I've said before numerous times, these vehicles do make some level of noise. I've driven probably in the neighborhood of 12 different Rivian vehicles, both R1S and R1T, and all of them that I've driven have made some type of noise. So some type of noise is normal, and that makes it even more difficult, I think, to diagnose when it's an abnormal noise, because there is some level of noise that's normal. So this last time I took it in, and it needed a front damper replacement, so both front dampers, and I think somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,000 or $3,000 would have been the repair bill for this. Now, the vehicle had 23,000 miles on it at the time that I took it in. So that did give me a lot of cause for concern, because the new car warranty is done at 60,000. And once you get out of warranty, you're responsible for a lot of that stuff. Now, the battery and electric drive are warranted on the quad motor for 175,000 miles or 8 years. So the real expensive stuff is covered, but still, dampers, a couple $1,000s. And if they only last for 25,000 miles, that's a little concerning. I do think Rivian has revised the dampers, so they'll be less prone to failure if you get them replaced at this point. It's still something that gave me a little cause for concern. It also still made a little bit of noise going over bumps and things. It was much better, and it handled much better after the damper replacement, but there was still some noise there, and I just feel that in a vehicle in this price range, even though it is an adventure vehicle, a vehicle in this price range, we're talking a $90,000 to $100,000 plus vehicle, should not have these kind of noises. I expect a little bit more refinement in the ride. Now, Gen 2 is much improved on the suspension front, so if you're purchasing a Rivian now, I don't think that's quite as much of a concern. The other thing I had is wheel balance, which I had a shaking in the steering wheel. I took that into Rivian. They did a road force balance on all 4 wheels and tires, and that resolved that problem. So not really a whole lot of stuff that went wrong with the truck. Another big thing that really frustrated me was the service experience. So with the dampers, with the noise, when I put the service request in for that, from the time that I put in the service request to the time that I got the vehicle back was over 4 months. It was several months of a wait. Then when I dropped the vehicle off, Rivian had the vehicle for about 4 weeks before they even started working on it. Now, this is not the fault of the service center. The folks at the service center, the technicians, the staff there, all these folks are totally awesome. The problem is, I believe, at the corporate level at Rivian, where they just need to open more service centers. The existing service centers are overloaded with vehicles, and so this is why there's a long wait. The vehicles are sitting there for a long time before they're able to work on them after you drop them off. So I really hope that Rivian can get some improvement there, open some additional service centers, take some of the load off the existing service centers, and provide a better experience for their customers. So why did I decide to sell, and why now? So I had a 2023, and my thinking was next year, 2025, is going to result in a significant drop in value. And this was based on what I saw happen with the 2022 model year vehicles. And so I figured this was a good time to sell to get the maximum amount on the trade versus waiting another 6 months, let's say. So the back seat in the R1T was another reason why I decided to sell. When I was carrying passengers in the back, there was ample room, but because of the gear tunnel, the back doors are kind of cut off at the bottom. So certain folks may have difficulty getting into and out of the back seats. And the Silverado EV has a huge back seat. So that was one thing that really kind of motivated me to make the change. So again, probably not something that most folks are really going to be caring about. But that's just one of the little things, one of the little pet peeves that I had with the back, accessing the back seats of the Rivian R1T. The big thing was the battery size for towing. Now, the Rivian Large Pack that I had has 131 kilowatt hours usable. That's by any means a large battery, okay? It's a decent sized battery, but the problem is when you're towing things like travel trailers and things of that nature, your range is at least cut in half. So if I'm getting 1 mile per kilowatt hour, which is typical when I'm towing, and I have 131 kilowatt hours usable, I'm looking at a maximum of about 130 miles of range when towing. But remember, I'm not running it below 10% or charging it above 80% when I'm on road trips. So that means I'm only able to use about 70% of that energy once I've made my first charging stop. If you go back and look at my towing road trip to Hilton Head, South Carolina, I'll put a link in the description and put it up on the screen as well. If you go back and look at that, we had to make 5 charging stops going from Maryland to Hilton Head, so about 600 miles each way. We had to make 5 charging stops. And with the Silverado EV and the larger battery, I'm dropping that down to probably 2 or 3 charging stops. So that's huge when you're making a longer trip towing. The battery size and towing is a big reason why I decided to make a change. Now, we knew, my wife and I knew going in when we bought 2 Rivians that service might be a little bit of a challenge, might require some patience. But I was kind of frustrated to see that a year and a half later, the problem has actually gotten worse and not better as Rivian has grown its fleet. I'm not really sure what the problem is. I know there are technician shortages, and I know it's not super easy to open new service centers, you know, find locations, negotiate the deal on the property, and get all the people hired and that kind of thing. But so I'm a little disappointed that the situation has gotten worse. And I felt like, you know, this last time, 4 months was just way too long to wait to have a problem resolved with a vehicle, even if it is a non-critical problem. So I really hope that Rivian gets the service issues addressed soon. They're going to need to do that before R2 comes, because I don't think the mass market is going to put up with these long service wait times. And again, this is saying nothing bad about the folks at the service center. Those folks are awesome, but their hands are tied. They're completely overwhelmed with vehicles and customers, and they don't have enough staff to get the vehicles in and out of there in a timely manner. So the top level management at Rivian needs to try to come up with some different solutions to make it a little bit easier on their customers. The last thing that prompted me to trade the vehicle was the advanced driver assistance. The Silverado EV does have the GM Super Cruise, and it has the automatic lane change and all that kind of stuff. And I was kind of disappointed that Rivian pivoted on Gen 1. And I know there were hardware limitations, but it kind of is a little disappointing because I really value the advanced driver assistance on the highway. It takes a lot of the stress out of long road trips. And I was kind of disappointed that there were going to be no feature updates for Gen 1 vehicles. Still updates to improve functionality, but no additional features. So that was a little disappointing. And one of the things that helped me along, not the only reason I decided to trade, one of the things that helped me along in that decision. So the next thing I want to talk about is what I'm sure all of you want to know. How much did I get for my R1T on trade? Now, I had just under 24,000 miles on the truck, and I got trades that were all over the place. CarMax offered me $52,000, and I was shocked. That was very low. So Kelley Blue Book gave a pretty large range, with the very top end of that being in the low 60s. So I kind of knew that this was going to be not a really good trade-in situation. Most of the places I went offered me about $55,000 for the trade. The dealer that I wound up doing a deal with offered me $60,000 for the trade. So that made it worth my while. And the other reason why that was important is because here in Maryland, we have a 6% sales tax on vehicles. But when we're trading in, we only pay sales tax on the difference between what we got for the trade and what the cost of the new vehicle is. So that wound up being about a $5,300 difference from the other offers when I factored in the additional tax basis credit I got for the trade-in. So I feel like I did pretty well. I really wanted to get around $63,000, $64,000 for the vehicle. And when I factored in the tax basis credit and what I got for the trade, I wound up getting about $63,500 for the vehicle. And that made it kind of an easy decision just to go ahead and trade it. The last thing I want to talk about, folks, is the question, would I buy another Rivian? The short answer is yes. We kept our R2 reservation, and I plan on getting an R2. So we do totally plan to get the R2 when that becomes available. And any referrals that I get are going to go towards our R2 and all the great content I feel like we're going to make on the R2 vehicle. Rivian just has an awesome community. Owners, the company, all of it. So absolutely, I would buy another Rivian. But here's some of the bullet points. We still own and love our R1S. My wife has her R1S, which I'm in right now. So we very much are still Rivian owners and still plan to participate in the Rivian community. And again, we're going to keep our R2 reservation, and we're really anxious to get that when it becomes available. So I think overall, if I'm going to sum up everything, I think that, you know, we love the Rivian community, but the Silverado EV for the truck stuff is ticking more of the boxes for me. And with the lease deal, which I'll talk about in a future video, on the 2024 Silverado EV RST and what I got for the trade on the Rivian, everything just kind of lined up to where it made sense for me to make this change. Otherwise, I probably would have just kept the Rivian. It was a good vehicle, other than the few little nagging issues that I had with it. Never left me stranded. They did proactively replace the 12-volt battery, which I thought was good. Never had any of those kind of problems with the truck. But anyway, I hope you guys found this useful, giving a little insight as to why we chose to trade in the R1T for the Silverado EV. We love to hear your comments down below, good or bad. Nobody's going to judge or do anything like that. It helps me to understand what you guys want to see. But I love hearing your unfiltered opinions. So put them down below in the comments section, and let's get a conversation started about it. Folks, remember to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming content. Also, remember to hit that like button, because that helps others find our content just a little bit easier on YouTube. And as always, folks, remember to hug the people you love every chance you get, and we'll see you next time.